Pinnacle Prevention is a nonprofit organization. We're located in Chandler, Arizona, but we serve Arizona statewide, and we have a mission of cultivating a just food system and opportunities for joyful movement. So Pinnacle Prevention has been around now for over 10 years, and early on in our work in public health and community nutrition, when we were going out and interacting with community, there were things that we were saying and doing that just wasn't sitting right. And we would leave those experiences and we would say to ourselves, wow, we went out to do this nutrition education session or deliver services and it was met with resistance or it didn't quite land well with people. And so about 5 years into our existence, we realized that we were going out and doing the thing without recognizing the reality of what was happening in community. And so we started trauma-informed work over 5 years ago, really looking at it through the broad systems lens. The scope of our work in public health and community nutrition and in food systems transformation has really been through a policy, system, and environmental change approach. And so when we were thinking about it through a systems lens, we were recognizing that folks who are experiencing food insecurity, which is primarily the population and groups that we would work with, were experiencing trauma because we know that being food insecure in and of itself is a form of toxic stress and trauma. We also saw that folks were interacting with different institutions and systems that were re-traumatizing over and over again. If we weren't broadening our scope in the way that we were looking at this through that systems lens, that we were going to be less impactful in the work that we were doing.
Trauma-informed nutrition really is a very broad concept. It's not any one specific definition, any one specific meaning. I don't know if it's possible to narrow it down to any one thing. And I think it's important to note too that there are a lot of folks that don't connect with that term or relate to it in the way that it is sometimes used and described. But trauma-informed approaches to the work in general mean understanding how our nervous systems play a role in the choices we make and the behaviors we have. It's a shift from asking, why aren't people, or people need to eat this, or people need to change this, into really asking why. What is the context? How did folks get here? What is going on that is leading folks to make that choice? And also understanding that most things are normal human behavior under abnormal circumstances. So trauma-informed nutrition means seeking to understand how food is a part of that context. And it is a regulator of our nervous system. Food can be a source of pain for some. It can be a loss. There can be hardship, stress. Some folks have been shamed for what they eat, have been withheld food, have been punished through food. Some folks have never felt safe around food. Food can also be very powerful in healing. It can be a source of felt power. It can connect us to our family, our identity, our history, our culture. Food is all of those things. So when we say trauma-informed nutrition, really what we're meaning is shifting ourselves from just looking at the basics of food into really asking ourselves, what's the context and what do folks need to feel safe, healed in all the forms of vitality around food. Trauma-informed work is really about supporting an environment that supports folks' nervous systems, that helps support resilience, that helps support this feeling of felt safety and the other elements. Those are things that are healing. One of the most common questions we get is, what does this look like in practice? What this looks like in practice is really humility. It's understanding that there's always an and there's always something more to the story than you know. And it's really trusting that human beings are responding from a context. And so I think it's a never-ending practice of asking those hard questions. It's just that never-ending practice of self-reflection and humility that allows you to adjust and meet folks where they are and shift our program in the direction towards a more resilient and healing environment. The concept of trauma-informed nutrition means understanding how nervous systems and how history, how community, how all of these things shape why we eat what we eat. Failing to consider those sometimes can add harm, can be hurtful to individuals or to groups who have experienced various events that impact food and how they have formed relationships with food.
Trauma-informed food systems and nutrition systems change supports resilience by recognizing that having experienced a trauma is not a fault of an individual, and oftentimes it's not even something that is a problem with the individual. So it shifts our framing and our focus from what's wrong with this individual to what has this individual experienced and why. So it's holding curiosity and also recognizing that we as humans, having gone through traumatic experiences, whether it's individual, intergenerational, historical, community-based, our ability to move through those experiences is a form of resiliency. And so oftentimes it's what has allowed us to survive, it's what has allowed us to cope, and to be the person that we are today. So it's really about uplifting and celebrating that resiliency through a strengths-based approach, and recognizing not that there's something wrong with a community in particular or a centered population group, but really what is right with that community, what is right with that population group, what have they endured, and how has that resiliency showed up that has gotten them to the place that they are today, and really honoring and uplifting those strengths. And also recognizing where our system may be perpetuating harm and re-traumatizing, and working to change those systems so that they don't continue to perpetuate harm, and that we really are taking a strengths-based approach versus this deficit-based approach to the work that we do in public health nutrition. When we make a change in a system that can be healing and beneficial for one, then it can be healing and beneficial for all of us. So if that means that our institutions are greeting folks with a friendly smile, and we have environments that are welcoming and inclusive, and we are meeting people where they're at, then that is beneficial for all.